Well, guys, after this episode, I think we just found the new catchphrase that's going to be sweeping the nation from Game of Thrones. Hey guys, Cameron for Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 5, The Door, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode, which I know you guys are saying, oh, you could have watched this episode early. I'm not going to watch Game of Thrones early. It was up early, I wanted to, I told myself, no, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to wait till the episode goes up, and thank God I did, because this was another amazing episode, especially the ending. I know you guys don't want to talk about it, but overall, I thought there was some really great stuff in this episode, some really powerful scenes as well, not just in the ending, which was probably one of the best deaths we've had in a while, definitely, but let's just get into this episode. I absolutely loved this episode. Amazing stuff. This continues to be amazing season, and let's get into it, because there definitely is a lot to talk about. So, right away we see Sansa. She's sewing a gown when she receives a message from the Eyrie, and she asks how far Molestown is, and obviously we know why she's going there. She's going there to confront not Ramsay. She's going there to confront Littlefinger is where she's going, because she goes to Molestown. She's accompanied by Brienne, and she meets Littlefinger, and obviously we know the main reason why she's there. Littlefinger, of course, you know, he's gotten word of what's happened to Sansa, and he says that he feared the worst for her, because as we know, he was supposed to bring her back to Castle Black, and then, you know, and then sort of just abandon her. Like, he kind of just left. That's how the whole Ramsay situation turned out, and, basically, he said he rode north to come to her aid. He says the Knights of the Vale are at Kalin, and you can tell that Sansa really isn't really accepting any sort of excuse that he has whatsoever. You know, she's not listening to him. The point is, he abandoned her, and she's really pissed at him for that. Rightfully so, I think she should be pissed at him. I mean, she really has every right to be. And Sansa asked if he knew about Ramsay, saying he's either stupid or her enemy, and because, you know, if he knew, he would have come to her aid, and he didn't. So either he's really dumb, or he just didn't want to come find her. And she asks Littlefinger what he thinks Ramsay did to her, and demands an answer because the thing is, he doesn't know what Ramsay did to her, and we know, of course, the damage that Sansa suffered. Well, she's kind of rised up against it at this point, but I do really like seeing this newfound, like, badass in Sansa, and she says she can still feel what Ramsay did, and that she doesn't believe Littlefinger can protect her. And that scene, honestly, it's very sad to see, because there's things she's saying, you know, Ramsay did things that no woman can speak of, and basically, that she says she doesn't believe Littlefinger can protect her, and that he's not capable of doing that. He was supposed to protect her, and he abandoned her. So, really, she doesn't care what he has to say. Littlefinger says he'll beg for his life if that's what she wants, and that he'll die if that's what she wants. He's literally willing to die, or anything that she desires, and it really just shows how desperate Littlefinger is to get back into the good graces. It's clear that that's not what Sansa wants. What she wants is an explanation. That's really what she wants, and Sansa tells him to go back to Mokalin, that she and Jon will take back the North without him, and that she never wants to see him again. So, to me, it seemed like she was trying to gang allies here, but no, and instead, she's sending him out on his way and saying, bye-bye, this is it, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And he offers information telling her that the Blackfish has taken back Riverrun and amassed all forces loyal to the Tullys, and that would be an army loyal to her rather than to Jon, and that they're not going to ally with Jon, but they will ally with her. So this whole situation really has changed a lot because of the fact that it seems like she's going to be with the gang allies. Jon, it's not going to be as easy. Thing is, though, we know Jon doesn't really want to fight. That Sansa basically is the one that's gotten to fight. He essentially hasn't wanted to fight, and he's only fighting because Sansa basically got him to, and essentially forced him to as well. But because of that and what's going on there, it seems like she's going to have to fight and Jon's not going to, which honestly I really do like. I mean, we're used to seeing Jon Snow as this fighting badass with Longclaw and things like that, and now he doesn't have Longclaw. Sansa's now, it seems like, is going to fight, and we'll get more to this later, but I really love this scene, because it is kind of sad that Sansa really doesn't trust Littlefinger anymore. I mean, it makes sense. He was supposed to be by her side, and he wasn't, and he completely abandoned her pretty much, and he didn't come to save her, and that's really why she's upset. It's not just, I think, because of the fact that I don't think it's just because of the fact that, Littlefinger was someone that was, one of her, that she really trusted. It wasn't just that. It was the fact that he promised he'd come back to her. He didn't come back for her at any point, and he just kind of left her there. And that's really why she doesn't trust him anymore. And I think she has every right to not trust him because of that. So Arya and the Waif are sparring. The Waif defeats Arya. She tells Arya that she's not ready and that she should go home before it's too late. And Arya gets back up, and I love how she says, "You're just a Lady Stark." And the Waif drops her staff, takes on Arya barehanded, dodging every strike, disarming Arya, knocking Arya out of the ring. And the Waif says Lady Stark will never be one of them. And that as much as Arya kind of wants to be, the sparring, kind of like assassin almost, she's not going to be. And Jaquen is standing in the doorway, says that the Waif has a point, and we get this scene where we see the Hall of Faces. Jaquen tells Arya the history of the Faceless Man, and the first learned to give the gift and change his faith in the minds of Valeria. He taught others, and eventually all the masters were killed. The Faceless Me came to Braavos. Jaquen gives Arya a mission, and a woman named Lady Crane, and Arya watches a play. So Jaquen then gives Arya this mission, basically, to prove that she can be as strong as them, to find this woman named Lady Crane. And we get this, honestly, really devastating scene where Arya watches this play that's really a mockery of the death of Robert Baratheon. She's upset that the bumbling portrayal of Ned Stark, the way they really portray him as sort of like this cowardly, just really ridiculous figure, and the crowd finds it really amusing. I love that Arya is not the one that's laughing here. In fact, she's kind of appalled by this is going on, and Ned demands the Iron Throne after Robert dies, but Tyrion betrays him. A mock Sonda begs Joffrey and Cersei to have mercy on Ned, and Joffrey's about to agree when the execution lops off Ned's head, and of course, we know, when Ned was executed, and we know that Arya, of course, she noticed it, and it makes sense that it doesn't necessarily faze her because of the fact that she saw her own father die, but it is something that has tremendously changed Arya. We've seen this throughout the course of the show, and that's really how the show, really began. A lot of people say that season 1 was kind of like a prologue to the rest of the show, and the play moves on to Tyrion being appointed as the hand to the king, marrying Sansa against her will, and she really is just disgusted by this play because it's very vile, it's very not amusing at all, and the fact that they're laughing at it, she really can't stand. And Arya goes backstage where Lady Crane, who played Cersei, is drinking rum, and Arya returns to the Hall of the Black and White, tells Jaquen that she plans to poison the rum, obviously to go after Lady Crane and kill her, and she asks to use a face from the Hall, but Jaquen says that she's not ready to do that. He feels that she's not in any position to kill someone, and Arya points out that Lady Crane is a decent woman and wonders who wants her dead, but then Jaquen says that this is not how a servant of the many-faced god thinks. They don't really think of why should they die, they just go on with the mission, and it's clear that Arya really isn't doing that because she does beg for mercy. She does have mercy in her, she does have morality, and it's clear that the many-faced gods do not have morality, and they don't want Arya to have morality, and it really does make it seem like Arya's going in this direction where she's going to be a lot more of a villainous figure than she is right now. Definitely, I think she is going to undergo change, but we're not really sure. I do like the direction that's headed. Very interesting stuff. And now I have more of an idea of where Arya's arc is headed, because like I've said before, that's the one arc of this season where I haven't really been able to tell where it's going. In this episode, I very much can tell where we're headed. So we see at the King's Moot, we see the Three-Eyed Raven and Bran are seeing a vision of the past. A group of children in the forest before a ritual on a man tied to the stone outside a weirwood tree. They stab him through the heart and become a White Walker. And again, Bran is seeing these visions of the past. The way he's doing this, I think, is really cool. I think it's adding this really cool stuff to the show because we're finding a lot more out about characters that have died before the show even started, which I think is really cool. We see Leaf tells Bran they needed the White Walkers because they were losing the war against man, and they find the person that these creatures, basically the one that made them, made the White Walkers. And I think it's very interesting why she made the White Walkers. We see she tells Bran they needed the White Walkers because they were losing the war against men, and they needed someone to take down those men because, of course, that war was very obviously tumultuous. There were a lot of casualties, things like that, and I really love that scene. It really does show why we have these White Walkers and why they're such a threat and why it's so hard to take them down. Definitely really enjoyed that. Really good stuff there, and probably one of my favorite things about this episode is finding out the founder of the White Walkers, because obviously it has been a question of where these White Walkers come from. I mean, there aren't any other place where these White Walkers are. Why do we have them? Now we know why, which I think is really cool. So at the Kingsmoot, Yara makes her case to become queen of the Iron Island. She's cut off by someone pointing out that that it needs to be a male heir and that it can't be a woman. And again, we're really seeing that woman empowerment, which I really think is kind of the theme of this season at this point. And Theon has returned. Theon claims Yara is the rightful ruler and gives a rousing speech on her behalf. And I like that Theon is sticking by her. He's not opposed to this. He thinks that she should be queen. And Euron makes himself known, claims the Salt Throne for himself. He mocks Theon, and Yara asks where Euron returned, and he says just a few days. Yara accuses Euron of killing Balin, and Euron admits that he did. Like, he doesn't even really, deny it. He says straight out that he did it, saying that Balin was leading them nowhere and no one loved him anyway. Theon accused him of being absent from the Iron Islands for too long. Euron claims his time away has given him experience and knowledge, and he proposes sailing to Daenerys, marrying her, providing her with a fleet to take Westeros, and the Ironborn chants in Euron's name. The Damper baptize Euron as the new king, while Yara and Theon take off as many ships as they can, and once Euron is crowned, decides his first order of business will be to hunt and kill Theon and Yara. He orders the Ironborn to build him 1,000 ships, and so now we have someone going after Theon and Yara. It seems like everyone has someone going after them. Now we have Theon and Yara have someone to go after. Meanwhile, Ramsay still obviously wants Theon, because he still wants Reek all to himself, so there's that going on as well. Really crazy stuff here, honestly, though, between what's going on with Ramsay and then what's going on with Euron. I mean, Theon, this guy just can't catch a break, really. Theon cannot catch a break, and that's something I do love about Game of Thrones, though, is that it's always moving. It never slows down, and that's, I think, a great thing this season has done. There were times last season where things slowed down. It's clear this season they're never slowing down, and you definitely do see that here, and basically we now have Euron going after them. I don't know where this is going. We'll have to see what happens there, but really crazy stuff. So Daenerys looks over the Dothraki with Daario and Jorah, and obviously she gives them a much needed confrontation, a much needed explanation about what's going on. She's staying behind her, and she really doesn't know what to do with Jorah, because he's been banished twice, but also saved her life, and she can't kill him because of that. But he says that she must send him away, shows her the grayscale growing on his arm, because honestly we know how contagious that grayscale is and what it could do to him. And Daenerys says that she's sorry, and Jorah says not to be, that all he's ever wanted was to serve her. He misses he loves her and that he always will, says goodbye, and I like that he actually left. Like, he didn't even think about it. He just left. He said, alright, you want me gone, I'm gonna leave. He thinks the best thing for him to do is to leave, and it does show that Jorah does have, some good in him, and that he's not completely useless, and Daenerys orders him not to walk away from his queen. She reminds him of his pledge to her to obey her commands, and commands him to find the cure for a grayscale, and then return to her. Now, this is interesting. Unfortunately, couldn't this have come up, last season because of Shireen and what happened there? I mean, we remember why Shireen was killed, because she had that grayscale. Why couldn't they have found this cure last season? I don't know, but unfortunately now, now Jorah has this task to find the cure for the grayscale. Now, is there a cure? I have no idea. I really don't. I've said it before. I think the grayscale is kind of like the bubonic plague in many ways. That's kind of the way they've shown it here, is that in any way you can get the bubonic plague, the grayscale is just as contagious, and I think that's kind of George R. R. Martin's way of having symbolism of the bubonic plague and substituting that for the grayscale. So she says she will need him by her side when she takes the Seven Kingdoms, because she plans on not just, being the Queen of Dothraki, she plans on taking over all the Seven Kingdoms. And obviously, we've known from the beginning that Daenerys wants to be in power, but this definitely shows that she wants that throne. And honestly, I know the show is ending. I know the show has 2 more seasons left. I could honestly really see Daenerys taking that Iron Throne. I think a big part of this season is getting us to the end. Honestly, the biggest question of the show is who's going to take that throne. I think Daenerys has a very good chance of doing that because of what she was able to do last week. I mean, if she can do that to a bunch of Dothraki, she can wipe out the Starks, she can wipe out the Lannisters, she can really do whatever the fuck she wants at this point, and I definitely think that she has a good chance of taking that Iron Throne. So Jorah watches Daenerys ride the head of the Dothraki before he rides away. Really great scene. Love the way that was done. Grey Worm then reports that the Sons of the Harpy have been ceased activity in the wake of the new pass with the nations of the Slavers' Bay. Tyrion says that it won't be enough, and of course, again, Tyrion's, ideas here, the thing is, like I've said, Tyrion went through slavery before a little bit. This is 7 years, and that is like an eternity to these slaves, and I don't think Tyrion really realizes that. Tyrion says they need a hero to claim responsibility for bringing security to the city, implies that it will be a woman, and we don't know who that's going to be, who he's going to approach. We eventually find out who it's going to be, but right now we don't know. I like that he's getting a woman, though, and that Tyrion is trying to run things again. Like I said, I think Tyrion's doing a good job, but the one thing I am worried about is this idea of him wanting to, help them with the slavery situation. I mean, obviously, he wants slavery to be abolished. We've known that. He even said last week, I'd love to abolish slavery, but it's just not going to happen right now. So they can't really do anything about that. So very interesting. But Tyrion and Varys then meet with Kinvara, the first priestess of the Lord of Light. I don't believe we've seen this character before. If we have, you guys can message me about that, but I don't believe we've seen Kinvara before. But I already am very interested in her character. She says that she came to help, that Daenerys is the one who was promised to remake the world. Kinvara knows that Tyrion has heard the stories in Volantis, and it seems like Kinvara is kind of taking over for Daenerys, because we don't know if Daenerys is going to come back to Meeren. Honestly, they're not sure. And basically, Varys points out that Stannis was also anointed and wonders if it's hard to make a mistake, and Kinvara simply says that everything is the Lord's will, but human beings make mistakes, and yeah, that's true. I mean, no human is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, and Varys wonders why he should trust Kinvara any more than Stannis should trust Melisandre, because we know that Melisandre betrayed Stannis, and Kinvara says everything happens for a reason. Even Varys' mutilation as a child at the hands of a second-rate sorcerer, which I feel like we've heard that before, but a lot of times Varys is used for comedy. It does show that Varys has been through a lot of shit, and really, Varys is not someone that we should think lightly of. This is someone that has been through a lot. He clearly, he's obviously usually a character, like I said, used for comedy, but in this sense, he has been through a lot here, and she asks if Varys remembers that the voice that called out from the flames when the sorcerer threw his parts in, and you can really see that Kinvara really wants to take over. They're not really sure if she should, or even if she's that qualified for it, but you can really tell by her kind of getting into Varys' head. The way she's doing that is really interesting. I definitely really like the way that that's going. Very interesting stuff there. So the way that she was able to get into his head was honestly kind of hard to watch, but I really do like the way that was done. So Brandon sits in the cave of the three-eyed raven. He throws a stone at the raven. He then grabs hold of a root, falls back into a vision, and he's at the same sacred spot he saw in his previous vision. Only now it's covered in snow and a storm swirls around it, and now you can kind of tell that these visions aren't just visions. I believe that they're premonitions. That's really what this is trying to show, especially because of the end of this episode. This definitely seems like a premonition that Bran is having. Bran turns, he sees a vast army of countless waits. He walks through them, and they don't seem to, not waits, whites. Why did I say waits? He walks through them. They don't seem to notice. On the other side of the army, he sees the Night King and 3 White Walkers sitting on horses. The Night King looks at Bran. The Whites turn to him as well, and when Bran turns back, the Night King is right in front of him. The Night King then touches Bran, and Bran shakes from the vision, screaming. The Raven says that he must leave, and that the Night King knows he's there because his mark is on Bran. He will be able to enter. He says it's time for Bran to become him, and of course, we've known that this means something. We've known that there are a reason why Bran is seeing these visions, and I think we kind of get a sense of why. It's clear, like I've said before, Bran could end up in that same position that the Night King is, and that they do want Bran to become kind of like the Night King, so that's very interesting as well, what the Raven is saying, that the Raven kind of wants Bran to become like him. I think that's very interesting, the way that that was going. So like, I mean, I kind of predicted that that's what was going on, that Bran was seeing this for a reason, and I think we kind of get that reason in this episode. So Jon Snow, Sansa, and their allies discuss which allies can call to their side, because obviously Littlefinger is out of the picture, obviously, because now they can't have Littlefinger on their side. Now they really need to figure out who can they get on their side. Sansa believes they may be able to turn the Karstarks to his side, but Davos says the houses won't rally to a lost cause, and Jon wants to rally to the smaller houses, and Sansa tells him about the Tully army, saying that she learned it while at River Run, and it really is kind of a problem at this point because of the fact that Sansa seems like she could be appointed to lead an army, but it doesn't seem like Jon is really part of it. It seems like Jon's kind of gonna stand back on this one. We see later she sends Brienne to River Run together. The Tullys, Brienne is reluctant to leave Sansa with Davos and Melisandre because while she trusts them, she doesn't know if they're as trustworthy as she can be to Sansa, and Sansa, I think she would have rather, even Tormund. I mean, we know that Brienne really doesn't seem to like Tormund very much. Tormund clearly does like her, which I think is pretty funny, but Sansa trusts Jon to keep her safe. Brienne wonders why she lied about how she learned about the Tully army, because she completely lied about it to her. And later in the courtyard, Sansa's wearing the same dress that she sewed herself, adorned with a direwolf emblem, and she gives Jon a cloak resembling Ned Stark's, and they depart to visit the northern houses in hopes of raising an army, and that makes me worried for two reasons. One, I don't think the show's just gonna kill Jon again, but we know that Ned Stark died, and that he had this cloak. Again, I don't know what this cloak exactly means, but they depart to visit with the Northern House in hopes of raising an army, because despite what Littlefinger said about the Tully army, they're going to make sure that this works out. They really want to rally against Winterfell, and they're serious about it. They're not playing around here. They really do want to rebel against them. They want to cause a fight. They want to cause, this huge army. They want to rally as many people as they can, and the best way to do that is to, turn against everyone. I think that's exactly what Sansa plans on doing. I think it's really good that she does want to do that. Definitely really love the way that was done. And then we get to exactly what I know you guys want me to talk about, because if there's anything this episode's going to be known for, it's this scene. Game of Thrones, something I think they do the best is taking these scenes and extending them. They do a very good job, I think, at extending certain scenes, really, focusing very deeply on one arc, but when they focus deeply on one arc, you know that something is definitely going to happen in that arc. And the fact that they focus so much on, because, they focused, so much on what was going on with Bran, you knew that something was going to happen there. And, of course, like I said, this episode was leaked online. I heard something big happened with Bran's arc. But let's just get into it, because there's a lot to talk about here. We see Meera and Hodor preparing to leave the cave while the Raven and Bran are in a vision, and it's a really great scene. We see Meera notices their breath has become visible. She runs outside to see the White Walker army assembled there in front of the cave. The Night King touches the ground and it cracks, shaking the cave door, presumably removing the enchantment, and Leaf sends Meera to wake Bran, and because Bran, for whatever reason, is not waking up. Now, we know why, because he's in the vision, but Bran the Raven returned to their vision of Winterfell when his father was a child, back when Ned was a child, and the children of the forest lob magic grenades at the White Walkers and their whites and set up a barrier fire in front of the cave. The fire does not stop the White Walkers, but the whites are held at bay. Ned is being sent to the Vale, and his father tells him to conduct himself with dignity, but if he has to fight, he should win. And the whites have gone into the cave through the ceiling and are swarming Meera and the children. Now, Meera desperately tries to shake Bran, telling him to warg into Hodor, because she does not know if he's going to wake up. She's hoping he is, but she's not sure. The Raven says to listen to his friend. Bran wargs into Hodor. Meera manages to kill one of the White Walkers with an obsidian-tipped spear, and Summer sacrifices itself to hold the whites at bay so that Bran's party can make a break for it. And the Night King kills the three-eyed Raven. Leaf kamikazes some more whites to buy time, and Hodor pushes open this back door to the cave. And of course, here's the thing with Hodor, is that Hodor's been a very mysterious character. When we've met Hodor, so far all we've known about him is that he is, definitely Bran's most trusted confidant. He will always stick by Bran. He will always go with Bran's plans. He'll always protect Bran, things like that. He's never raw on Bran. He's very kind. He's been through a lot, though, and we know that he constantly says, Hodor, 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 Hodor. Now, we don't know what Hodor means, but finally in this episode, we know what that means. Now, before, we did see those flashbacks that Hodor once was a kid, and he actually did speak English, and we don't exactly know what happened, but clearly something happened to Hodor, and we finally find out what that is here, which I think makes this scene even more satisfying, because it's not just a great death scene, which we'll get into that, because, of course, it is a death scene, but I think it's also a great scene for character development, also how Bran is going, what Bran's going to do with this information, because Hodor opens a back door to the cave. He manages to hold it shut behind Bran. Still in this vision, can hear Meera shouting, hold the door, hold the door, hold the door, constantly, hold the door, hold the door. Wireless in the vision falls over, he falls, of course. Wireless is who Bran used to be. They keep saying, hold the door, hold the door. That, of course, is his mission for the White Walkers, is to hold the door. Wireless in the vision falls over convulsing, screaming, hold the door, and that's what he decides to do. He's holding the door to, shut it behind, so obviously he can protect Bran. Hodor stays behind. He's torn apart by the whites as Meera escapes Bran in the snow. Hodor is dead, and that is how the episode ends. Really tragic stuff overall. I wouldn't say I was on the verge of tears, not that, because to me it was more just a really great reveal is what it was. I mean, now we know what Hodor means. Hold the door, hold the door. That is what Hodor's purpose has always been, is to protect Bran. And how he dies is to hold the door for Bran. And that's, is to hold the door to protect Bran. That is how he dies. That is how this episode ends. And basically, that's the end of this episode. We're also halfway through the season, guys, so there's that as well. But what another amazing episode. Really incredible stuff. I mean, especially these past few weeks, they've been just giving us amazing episode after amazing episode. But this really is a very tragic death, because Hodor we've been with since the beginning. Hodor, I believe we were introduced to in the pilot. He's always stuck by Bran. It's sad to see Bran continue without Hodor, but the thing with Bran is that it seems like the idea is that Bran is going to become more powerful from this, because of course the Raven said to him, what do you think this means? You got to become like me. It seems like Bran is seeing these visions for a reason. Now, I think these visions are going to stop, because I think Bran now gets the purpose of them, but that's very interesting. It makes sense that Bran was obviously having a vision at that point, because, Hodor was able to save him that way. I definitely am going to miss Hodor, though. I mean, definitely, I think the great thing with Game of Thrones is that they make you miss characters that you didn't think you really miss. Hodor, I've always really liked. He's never really been, like, a favorite character of mine, because, he's just said Hodor, Hodor, Hodor. But, recently I've been very intrigued by his character to find out more about him, and finally, we know what's going on. We now know why he says Hodor, what the whole purpose of that was. I absolutely love that. Really great death overall. And really tragic stuff, but I love that they're using the White Walkers more and more. We now know who the leader of the White Walkers was, and we also now know how Bran's can become pretty much as powerful as that Raven is, which I think is very interesting, the way that Bran can have these visions. A lot of people don't have these visions. Now, why is Bran being appointed to have these visions? We don't really know, but I feel like that's what it's going to be, is the rest of the season is going to be Bran kind of self-discovering things. Why is he having these visions? What's happening? How can he use these visions? Things like that. I think that's going to be very interesting as well. I can't wait to see the way that all turns out, because I already am very intrigued by that storyline. I really love that overall. But besides that, guys, really great stuff we have here. I mean, let's talk about what's going on with Tyrion and Varys, because obviously this woman, Kinvara, they don't really know if they can trust her, but Kinvara clearly does want to work for them, and she's trying to say, I can be a lot more loyal. But I do think Varys brings up a good point, that basically, how do we know we can trust you more than, say, Stannis, or, Melisandre, or even Daenerys? How do we know we can really trust you? Are we going to stay loyal? Things like that. But the way that Kinvara is really going into Varys' past, I think is very interesting. I don't know if we're going to see some flashbacks, but I feel like they're trying to show that we are going to find out more about Varys' past. I'm sure we've heard about this before, but it really feels like Varys is someone who really is glossed over all the bad things that have happened to him and all the things he's really been through, which I think is very interesting. I really do like the way that went, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get Kinvara, if Kinvara is going to get on their side. At this point, I feel like they are willing, but they just really need to know, are you really going to stay loyal to us? Because at this point, they don't really know if they can really trust her, which I think is very interesting. I really do like that overall. Let's talk about Jon Snow and Sansa, because obviously Sansa, you can tell, is very, she really is very, I think, she really made herself known that she does want Jon Snow to be on her side. She obviously does want Jon Snow to be, she does want her and Jon to be able to lead this army, but it seems like from what the Tully said and what from Littlefinger said, that she's not going to be able to get him on his army. But the thing is, Sansa doesn't really trust Littlefinger right now. There is that. She doesn't really trust Littlefinger. We know that, and because of her not trusting Littlefinger, how do we know that she's not going to be able to get, Jon on her side? How do we know that Littlefinger was not telling the truth? I mean, I think Littlefinger clearly does want to stay loyal to her, but she really doesn't trust anything he says right now. So I think that's very interesting as well. Is that going to be true? I mean, I don't think they're going to kill off Jon Snow. Again, that wouldn't make sense. But I really am loving this Jon Snow-Sansa dynamic, because I really was thinking about this when I was watching this episode, is that Jon Snow and Sansa have never had really any interaction in the show before. I mean, we've known, obviously, that they were siblings, but we've never really seen them interact, and by seeing this, I think it's really cool. I really do love that, and it's really very worthwhile. I really do love seeing this new dynamic here, because, like I said, the main, I think, theme of this season is how do we repair all the damage that we've gone through, and it's already clear that that's happening in many arcs, and I really do love that. If you guys notice, we didn't even see Lannisters in this episode, which I think is very interesting. The situation with Tyrion and Grey Worm and the slaves and everything, is this really going to work? I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously Tyrion does want to abolish slavery, but can he really do that? How much of that really is that going to go into? We'll have to see what happens with that. It's clear that Daenerys does not want Jorah to leave her side, even though Jorah thinks the best thing to do. Is he really going to find a cure for the Greyscale, though? I'm not really sure. Is there a cure out there? How much can he find? I mean, I don't really know if there is such a thing. I mean, there wasn't yet, so why would there be now? I'm not really sure. Who makes the cure? How's he going to find it? That's something I'm definitely very interested in. As far as Yara and Theon, they now have an assassin after them. Euron is going after them. Theon, like I said, can't catch a break. I don't know what's going to happen there, but Yara feels really powerful. Yara, again, is pretty much the powerful one here. Again, women power is like the theme of this season. It's really crazy, but it really is. It's showing how strong the women are, and Yara clearly has the upper hand. I think she's going to be able to take on Euron. I think she still wants to take over that Iron Throne, and she's going to make sure that she does get a chance in doing that. Daenerys, I feel, is going to be the one that gets it in the end. I just feel like the way they're setting things up, Daenerys has to get that Iron Throne. It just kind of makes sense that she's the one that ends up getting that Iron Throne. Now, I know we're only on season 6, and that season 8, I believe, is going to be the last season, but I do think that, Daenerys, I think, is a very good chance of getting that Iron Throne if she doesn't die, of course, which I don't think she's going to. And then as far as Arya goes, that's the only other thing to talk about, really, what is going to happen to her, because obviously her going, to, Lady Crane, we know she kind of not trusts Lady Crane, but she doesn't really see why they want her to investigate Lady Crane, so I think that's very interesting as well. We'll have to see how that all turns out. Overall, guys, really love this episode overall. Really great stuff. I've really been enjoying this season, I have to say. I think really this season just constantly been delivering. And honestly, I didn't say last week, but bringing back Jon Snow, I think, was a very wise decision, because we wouldn't be able to have this really cool storyline with Sansa. Sansa would still be probably, with Brienne if they had not found Jon. They would have never really got into where they wanted to. So I'll see how that all turns out. I really am loving the way this whole season is turning out so far. We are now halfway through the season. I definitely looking forward to seeing what happens in the last 5 episodes. Loving the season overall. Don't you guys saw this episode? Definitely really loved it overall. I think it's tied with last week as my favorite of the season. What do you think of Hodor's death? I thought was very satisfying. And we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for the season finale of, well, actually no, the mid-season, not the season finale, the mid-season finale of Fear the Walking Dead. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.